Hello and welcome to this series of lessons on learning the Devanagari script. I'll share the screen with you. My first recommendation is that you should follow this lesson in Yogavataranam. That's the Sanskrit language textbook by Zoe Slatov-Ponte. I've chosen that because that's the textbook that I'm proposing to use for the forthcoming series of Sanskrit language lessons that I'm working on. So I recommend that before you watch this lesson and before you start trying to learn the shapes of the letters and everything, you just read through chapter 1 of the Yogavataranam. That is pages 1 to, I think, 21. 1 to 21, just the English text of those pages. Don't yet bother to try and learn the script. There's not much English text to read. That will give you a general overview and to tell you what to expect. And also, as well as reading in advance, it'll be useful for you to have the book with you as I'm doing this lesson, because I refer to various pages and to various lines on pages, so you will need to have the book with you. Now, I apologize in advance if any of this appears a little bit clunky from the technological point of view. I'm still getting used to this new technology of just talking these lessons to my computer and switching between pages and resizing, so apologies in advance, but hopefully the quality of the material will be less clunky than the quality of the presentation of it. We'll start not by following the order in Yogavataranam. As I say, keep this book handy as I'm talking. So start off with the shapes, basic shapes of some of the letters. Share a screen with you. Here we go. I'm going to write the letter ta. Write it in Roman script first. Ta, right? Like that. Ta. And a pa. Now, two important things here, and I'll deal with these before we go any further. For the great majority of the letters of the Devanagari script, you have an upright bar and a crossbar, which are common to the majority of the letters, and the characteristic part of the letter is the bit that's normally written first. So, for example, the characteristic part of the t is that, to which you add the upright and the crossbar along the top. And this is the characteristic of the p sound, p letter, to which you then complete the letter by adding these two bars. A s. That is the characteristic part of it. Complete the letter like that. V. It's a s, p, t. V. Like that. B. Almost the same, but with that stroke there. B. And so on. A j. Ch. What I've written here in Devanagari is, in fact, it's ta, pa, sa, va, ba, cha, cha. And that is because when you write a Devanagari letter, it has in its, so to speak, raw form, as written, as I've written it here, what's called the inherent a. So when I write this letter, ta, a native speaker seeing that wouldn't just say it's a teeth, it's ta, the short a following. If you want to write a letter without the following short a, you have to put the virama, that little stroke at the bottom that blocks the vowel. So, for example, tat. Now, if I wrote, this is ta, tat means that, as in the phrase om tat sat. If I write that, that's the ta, I haven't yet put the crossbar. If I write it like that, that actually would be written as tata. But if I want to change that to tat without the final short a, I put this little virama there to indicate that that blocks the vowel. It's virama, by the way, it's written like this. It means stopping or pausing. So that now that I've written is that. A letter with the virama like this is written only at the end of a word, but then I add very importantly that since most words are joined to each other until you get to the end of a word group, say the end of the end of a line of verse or the end of a sentence, only then would you normally see a letter written like that. Let me give you an example. This om tat sat, which I'm choosing simply because it illustrates the point very well, as well as now being an entire correct Sanskrit sentence. You've got om tat sat, that the truth, that is the truth, or that is the existent. Let's write om tat sat to show you how it's done. So we all know the om, it's not actually a letter, it's a symbol rather than a letter. So tat, written on its own, is written like that, and sat, written on its own, is like that. Tat, sat. However, in connected writing in Devanagari, the words are joined together. So tat sat will be written like this. This ta followed by a short a, so written in full. This t now is going to be joined to the s, so you write the first part, the characteristic part of it, like the part which distinguishes it as a t, and you join it right up now to the following letter, the s. So this is tat sat. I'll just make it clearer for you here. Sometimes it's not written right up to it, sometimes there's a little gap, but that's just a matter of handwritten style. And equally in printed and electronic typefaces, you'll see little variations. But the vital thing to remember, with all of the variations that you'll see, different typefaces, different styles of handwriting, what you are really looking at for is the characteristic shape of the letter. So you see that, and you see that joined. That's it. That's your characteristic t bit there, and your full s there. I'll now go over to the vowels. Now, if you look at page 4, near the bottom of the page, you'll see 3 rows for the a, I, u, l, e, I, o, and au. Those are the vowels of Sanskrit. Now, these vowels are written in full only when they begin a word, and as a more general rule, only when they begin a word group, or begin a sentence, begin a line of poetry, or a word group that follows with a break, and then you start a new word group. Only then will it be written in full. Let me give you an example here. This is the letter I'm writing. This is the letter A. This is the short A. But as you've just seen, if I'm writing, this is S I'm writing. If I write that, this is S. So you don't write the full vowel A because the short A is inherent in any consonant that you write, unless you, of course, you put the virama, which we haven't done in this case. So if I want to write sa, it's just written like that. That is sa. Now, the word for end is anta. Now, I write anta like this, and before I write it, you already know that this is the, sorry, you don't already know, you're learning it now, though. This is the characteristic, this is the N. The characteristic bit is either a little bauble there or a little hook there, but the N, very simple, just that, and then of course you complete it with the upright and your top bar. And the T, you know that now, upright, crossbar, that's N. So we're going to write anta equals end. So this word begins with a vowel. Yep, sorry for that sudden break there, which is part of the clunkiness. I thought for a moment I'd cancel this recording, but I haven't. So anta, it begins with a vowel. The vowel a. So you have to write that in full because it comes at the beginning of the word. This is a. Now we want to write nta. But if I wrote it like that, that would be nata. But we want nta. So what do? As we wrote for omtatsat, you remember we wrote it like that. Ta, then just the characteristic part of the t, the combining form. Tat, sat. So equally, we're joining the n to the t. So we write, as we did with the t down there, we start with the characteristic part of the n and join it straight on to the t. So this now gives us anta. If I wrote it like this, that's wrong. This is anata. But to make anta, like that. Now, as for the way I'm writing these, I should warn you that I'm not a brilliant calligrapher in Devanagari or indeed any other language. So I can't promise you that it's looking terribly elegant. I do promise you that what I'm writing is correct, and it looks pretty much like you'd see in a printed book. If you want to look at Sanskrit, or Devanagari, I should say, calligraphy, there's plenty of stuff on the internet. Just browse through your browser, Devanagari calligraphy, how to write Devanagari, and there's lots and lots of it. I thoroughly recommend that you do it because it will help you to learn if you get different people telling you in different ways, and even generally how to learn the Devanagari script. You'll get different angles on it. It'll all be correct, it'll all be good stuff, but it'll really help you to remember if you see it done in these different ways. Now, as to how I write the letters, I'm just going back to how I was taught to do it years and years ago. Goodness me, more than half a century ago, that you start off by writing the characteristic part of the letter, then the upright, and then the crossbar. And if you look at page 10 in Yogavataranam book, you'll see that there are the letters are composed there. You'll see how it's done with numbers, writing by numbers, which part of the letter to write first. This is the traditional way of doing it. As I say, like this is a ta, write a p like that, the characteristic part of the p, then the upright and the crossbar, s like this, the characteristic part first. It's already a s, it can't be anything else, it's just not a full letter. This written in this way that I'm underlining here, this tells you either you've got to complete it as a separate, as a full letter on its own to make sa, or it wants to be joined to something else. So to complete the letter sa, I write like that. Pa. Now, supposing I want to write tapas. Austerities, tapas. Ta, pa. This is tapasa, but so I put the virama to make it tapas and write the crossbar then along the top. Some people will write the crossbar separately for each letter, ta, pa, tapas, like that. The way I learnt to do it was, you write the crossbar as soon as you come to the point where it stops, even if it spreads over several words. Again, it's a matter of style. I prefer to write it as one single line, because then you avoid these little breaks here. Not that it really matters, it's purely a matter of style. And you would continue to write that crossbar until you got to a letter which does not have an unbroken crossbar. Let me give you an example right now. This is the letter M. Can you see I write the characteristic part of it first? M. Then the upright, then the crossbar. M. Oops. Sorry, that was part of the techno clunkiness. This is ma. Now a b, the aspirated b, is almost the same, but it's written like this. Watch this. Oops. B. That's it. I haven't written that very well. B. It's like the m, but the top crossbar is broken. So if I want to write a word like alabha, I would write the a, and then the l, long a. Now we're going to write the b, but because it's got a broken top, I now start writing the crossbar here and make the b like that. Alabha. I could equally have written it like that, lab, and then like that. Again, it's a matter of style, it doesn't terribly matter. Now, oops, sorry. We'll look at how the vowels are written. Go back now to page 4. Near the bottom of page 4, you'll see the list of the vowels. Now look first at the short a. On its own, as we've seen before, just written like that. But if you want to write a ta, that's a ta, plus a, all you need to write is ta. T plus a. Just write it like that. Because, as we've said, without this virama here, writing the consonant in this way, it has the inherent a there. So you never need to write this separate vowel a after the consonant, because it's already there. You only write it if it's at the beginning of a word, as we said with anta on the previous page. Now, that's for the short a. Now look at the long a. As an initial, that's occurring at the beginning of a word or word group or sentence. You start off writing it like the short a, but with another upright bar, and this makes a. Now, if you have to write ta, you don't write the full vowel sign. All you do is add that long bar to the t. So this now makes ta. So ta, ta. Sa, sa. Now we will look at how to write the e, the short and the long, the e and the long e. As an initial, that is the e, and the long form of it is the same as the short, but with this little hook on the top. So that crossbar a little bit too long. There we are. It's the e. Now, as with the other vowels, as with all of the other vowels, you never write the vowel sign in full when it follows a consonant. I'm going to write T for you now. So this is what I'm going to write, T. Sorry, I'm writing the wrong language. So you've got whatever the letter is there, this is your consonant. And it's like the A, but with a hook coming over from the top. So similar, so this would be, sorry, ta and T, hook, ta, T. Now there's a little story behind writing the short E, and that is that the vowel sign goes before the consonant, not after it. And don't worry, it's the only vowel sign in the Devanagari script that comes before. So T with a short E, you write the upright first, then write the characterist part of the T. That is T. So look at the difference. I'm now writing T. Incidentally, you'll see that sometimes I'm writing the top crossbar last, T. Sometimes it's written first. It really doesn't matter. It's a matter of style. I've recently, I was taught always to write it last, but I've just been looking at quite a few Devanagari writing videos before doing this, and there's quite a wide variety of the way people do it, and it honestly doesn't matter. I should mention here that it is completely different, for example, from Chinese, and I'm aware that a number of the people watching these will be from a Chinese cultural background. When you're writing Chinese, the Chinese characters, the word order, sorry, that the stroke order, the order in which you do each stroke, is it's either right or wrong. It's not optional. You've got to do it in the right order. And at school, you're taught you've got to do it in a certain order. And if you get them in the wrong order, you're just doing it wrong. Even the final result might look okay. You're doing it wrong. By complete contrast, the way that Devanagari is written, it is of not, in Chinese, enormous cultural significance, historical cultural significance, getting the script, the writing correct. Devanagari, it doesn't have that same significance as in, for example, Chinese, or as in the supreme example, Chinese. provided it looks right, it doesn't terribly matter how you do it. So back to where we were. This is the T now. Now, so if we want to write iti, meaning thus, so iti, it starts with a vowel. So yeah, so we have to put the full vowel sign for the initial I. Now we're going to write a T, but remembering that you need to leave space for your upright there before you write the characteristic part of the T. And that is now your iti. Now for the U is rather simpler. That is the short U. And the long U, again, is a little hook down there. As we saw with the E in the E. E short, E short, and E long. And A short, A long. So U and U. The way I've done it here, that's how it's written, how these vowels are written, appearing at the beginning of a sentence of a word group. When they're joined to a consonant, as with all of the other vowels, they're shortened to just an attached sign. So this is ta. Now to write tu, this little shape down at the bottom. This is a tu. And to write tu, similar kind of shape, but turn the other way around. And that's a tu. So mula, meaning root. Mula. Written like this. M, mu, mula. And of the root would be mulasya. The letter for a y is like that. Sya, again, the letters are joined. So s, just write the characteristic part of it, followed by the y. So mulasya, of the root. Mulasya. Now for the letters r, long r, and l. This r, sometimes called the vocalic r. It may have been pronounced r. In modern India, it tends to be pronounced as if it's written as a r, rishi, like chanting rishi, r. But it's treated as a vowel. If you look again to page 4, near the bottom, you'll see in that middle row of vowels, it's got a rather elaborate looking sign, which in handwriting tends to be written just like that, slightly less elaborate than the printed form. So that's the dot under it. So if I wanted to write the word rishi, for example, which in English we would often write like this, rishi. Again, it begins with the vowel, so I will write the vowel sign in full. And I'm going to write a ship with a short I, so remember, put the upstroke for the upright for the sh first, for the I first. You think I'm writing a p there, I'm not, it's a sh. It's like the p, but with a little crossbar inside and the hook on the top. There we are, that is rishi. Rishi. For the where you have the r following a consonant, it's much easier. I'm going to write for you the root trup, meaning satisfy, the root trup, and it's written here we have, as usual, our characteristic part of the t, and the r is written as a little hook in the bottom, at the bottom, like that. See, like a little tiny little C. That's the r. So trip. There's a p there. Put the virama, so it's not tripper, just trip. So that is trip. Now, the word for satisfied is to satisfy a trip. The word for satisfied in Sanskrit is tripta. So, how do I write that? Tri. Now, we're joining the p to the t. It's not tripata, but tripta. So, oops, sorry. I write the first part of the p, and then immediately joining it. Oops, what's happened? Sorry. System. Sorry, something. No. Tripta. So tripta. So this, the p, the characteristic sign of the p, joined to the t, and then you complete the letter with the upright, just one upright, remember, and the crossbar. You'll sometimes see a p written like this. You see the characteristic part of the p and the characteristic part of the t joined together in one. That's a p. A lot of these ligatures, remember, mostly they have just one form. Sometimes there are variations in style, like the one we've just seen for that pta or that pta. But the one vital thing to remember when you're reading is look for when you see a ligature, letters joined together, look for the characteristic shape, and you almost always will get it right. There are just very, very few cases, so few that they're easy to memorize, where the individual shapes of the letters as they would appear on their own get lost and merged into a new shape. Just a very few like that. So don't worry about those. We'll deal with them individually as we go along. Now that's the short r. So tr. Now the long r, it's short r written like that in transliteration. The long r is written like that. The short r in handwriting like this. The long is again just the same, but with a little hook. You see, I put a little, instead of finishing like that, it finishes like that. So that's the difference. That's r and that's r. The letter, this long r, you won't find very often. You'll find it in the genitive plural of relationship names, for example, pita. I'll write that in Devanagari, meaning father. Pita, notice this short I comes beginning. Pita. The genitive plural of the fathers is piternam, with a long and that is written like this. Again, the upright for the short I, P, characteristic part of the t, and then ding, ding. So just as a tri, short, oops, sorry. This is the short tri, and this is the long tri. So I say quite an infrequently encountered letter. So piternam, let me just finish this word for you. Piternam. There we are. Piternam. Some people will pronounce it pitrinam. Some will pronounce it piternam. There are various views as to how it was pronounced all those years ago. It doesn't matter terribly much. So piternam. Now just as we have a vocalic or a syllabic r, that's a r that is a vowel, not a consonant. So we have a syllabic r as well. It's only encountered actually in one single root in the entire language, which is the root klip, meaning to imagine. It's the same when we get the word kalpa, because a kalpa is conceived of as an imagining in the mind of Brahma, a movement in the mind of Brahma that creates the universe. So klip is the root, and kalpa the verbal noun. On its own, an ordinary l is written like that, or sometimes written handwritten like that. This is actually how I learned to write it initially, like this one. But in books, you will normally see it written, written like that. The vocal, that's the ordinary l. This is a l written. The vowel l, it starts like the ordinary l, but with a little hook at the bottom there. So this makes the vowel l. The most common occurrence in this root is as the noun kalpa, where of course it's just written in the normal way with the l as a full vowel. So, sorry, as a full consonant. So kalpa, that's one way of writing it. When written, so the only time you ever see it is under a K. It's written like this. That's the K. And underneath, just write it underneath it like that. So that is your Kl. Don't stress too much about that. You might occasionally see it, but not often. The only word I've ever seen in reading Sanskrit where I've seen it is in the past third person plural, which is cha klipe, meaning they imagined, which I'll show you how to write that. So cha klipe, cha klipe. Right, we'll now proceed to the vowels in the third line of the vowels on page 4, which is e, I, o, au. Now do bear in mind in Sanskrit that you get the short and long a, I, u, r, r. For these vowels e, I, o, au, they are always long, and that's why when we're transliterating Sanskrit into Roman characters, we never bother to mark the e and the o as long, because they're always long anyway. A slightly different rule applies in Pali, which I'll deal with in a moment. Now, as before, e, written at the beginning of a word group, is e. So evam, in Pali evam maya sutam, in Sanskrit evam maya shrutam, thus have I heard. It's written, evam is written like this. Again, write it in full because it begins the word. The v, that's the v. Evam. Now, for the eagle-eyed among you, have I written evam? Actually, I've written evam because I haven't put the virama. And I put the virama, that little stop there, so that now is evam. The diphthong a is written like that. So the same as the e, but with an extra stroke on top. That's a. So, as with all of the other vowels, these vowel signs are written in full only at the beginning of a word group. When they follow a consonant, they're written in abbreviated form. So te is written like this. There's our by now I hope very familiar ta. and it has this sign on top. This makes te. If you want to write tai, it's written in a similar way, but with a double hooked stroke on top. See, tai, te, tai. Now you may have noticed, I did that deliberately, that when I wrote this first tai, I put the crossbar first, then put the A on top. And when I wrote it the second time, I put the crossbar last. It's a matter of preference and style. It doesn't really matter. I don't know what school teachers are currently teaching people in India. As I say, I've seen it done in different ways on various calligraphers and even ordinary handwriting showing how to do it. Now look at the O and the ow. The O and the ow, there's not much new to learn, because we know what this is a. With another upright behind it, it becomes a. Now to make it into an O, you just put a hook there, like that. O. And to make an ow, again you start with a, and a double hook. So you've got the O and the ow. To combine these vowel signs with a consonant, let's put so and so. So s, so, so. Now let's make so. Now let's make tau. We'll write a different way this time. That is tau. I'll wind up this lesson now, and in the next lesson we'll be looking at the shapes of all of the consonants. You will see these set out, and I recommend that you just look at this a little bit. Don't beat your brains up too much trying to learn them all, but look at the table of consonants at the bottom of page 5 of Yoga-Avatarana. And then if you turn to pages 8 and 9, on the left-hand page, you will see all of the consonants written with the Romanized transliteration next to them. Sorry, consonants and vowels. And on page 9, you'll see them all written on their own. And for those, and if you go to page 12, there's a recommendation on the order in which you write the strokes. But hopefully you won't actually need that, because the way you can follow the way that you've seen me doing it on my iPad. And for those of you who don't have the Yoga-Avatarana, as I say, just any book on Devanagari will show you what they are, and to get tables of the Devanagari script with romanization, the internet is awash with them. You'll find them anywhere. Google through. There's no shortage of materials. I say the Yoga-Avataranam at this stage, certainly for the stage of just studying the Devanagari script, is a matter of transient convenience, because we'll be using this book later on. Also, in the next session, I will be showing you how to find and use what's known as the Lexilogos, which is an online keyboard where you can produce the Devanagari script online. It's free and it's very valuable. What I will do then, I will start off the next session with how to find and use Lexilogos, and then we'll go on to studying the shapes of the individual letters. Right, so see you then. Thank you.